We tried to warn y'all. We tried to tell y'all at least a year ago. And y'all didn't listen. Now look at where we are. Our current sitting president, Joseph R. Biden Jr., has submitted his resignation from the presidential race. I think we're fucked. All right, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. This is Miss Fox, the I Refuse podcast. I'm back. I was this close. I realized it had been a while, but there really wasn't anything noteworthy happening until I just got done producing another podcast episode of the Usual Suspects podcast, available everywhere you get your podcasts, same place you would see the I Refuse podcast, not the YouTube channel, the other side. Without further ado, I want to welcome you to the shit show. And that introduction, that flourish I just did, couldn't be more appropriate to reflect the shit that we're in now. So if you've been sleeping under a rock, living in Amish country, without running water, cable, electricity, or even light in your cabin, our current president, Joe Biden, who has been, up until today, part of the political race back to become the president, essentially a second time. He was running against 45. He had Kamala Harris by his side as his mate. 45 pulled another stunt. Out of his hat, and we talked about it last Monday. And just as I predicted, that was definitely something for sympathy. This is what happens when you endorse somebody, put somebody in office, nominate somebody, put money behind a person that is more for the camera than anything the position calls for. You're going to get stunts and theatrics and drama. Sorry to the man that lost his life. I don't know what they're going to do with old boy with the chin. But we're not here to talk about that. Joseph Biden has delivered this letter across all platforms, and I'm going to read it to you guys. Joseph R. Biden Jr., July 21st, 2024, that's today's date. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. T. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation and lowering prescription drug costs for seniors and in expanding affordable health care to the record number of Americans. We provided critically needed care to millions of veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. T. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all of this work, and let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Signed, Joseph Biden. See? See that? Listen. I have never seen a more eloquent, a more dignified 2-week notice. If I had those skills back when I was 15, 16 years old, and I was telling checkers I'm leaving to go into the Air Force, I probably would have had one of those. But all jokes aside, this is what happens when you let, and I'm not speaking about Mr. Biden, our president, great president. It's got to a point early on, and I've said this before, that all this paranoia and all this lack of trust and conspiracy theories from the people that wear the aluminum foil hats and watch, the History Channel all day, or get their news from this little narrow window while sitting in their living room with the popcorn ceilings and their wood paneling from the 70s, still stuck in a particular time, right? And you add to that, their view of the world comes from one particular news outlet, full of conspiracy theories, her emails and stuff. We unfortunately have let a lot of them rise. And unfortunately, it led to us about 4 to 8 years ago to a situation where we had no choice but to elect what was left. At first, you guys were like, this is like this is as good as it gets, and we'll have to make do with that. But the other thing about that letter is that he made it a point to list the things, the progress, and the impact of his presidency. Because a lot of y'all out here were under the assumption that he wasn't that effective. Oh, he's just too old, and he's just got to lay down somewhere. And making sure that at the forefront of everybody's minds on a monthly basis were little segments, clips shown together of moments that this man is actually being 83 years old. And a lot of people took that as, he's just unfit to be another president. This guy's probably going to die in office. And it's like, so wrapped up in drama and controversy that y'all forgot that this man actually kept a list of receipts, of accomplishments. Things that you and I probably take for granted. Didn't have to do it with a bailout. Didn't have to do it with giving y'all ungrateful asses little checks. The strength of y'all's argument for the other guy, Chester the Cheetah, was that, oh yeah, he got to get back in office so I can get my little $1,600 check again. And I'm like, see, y'all didn't do much with the stimulus checks that Obama gave us. Still riding around with the expired tags. No tea, no shade, but you know what I'm saying? It's like y'all went, y'all let these fools come to the forefront and give a platform and have the social media and stuff and push out this certain slant that makes people look like me look bad. Um, and this is where we are. This is where we are. Like, it's a circus going on outside of Biden and Vice President Harris, both honorable in their positions. It's a circus. And I know I've said on the podcast on multiple episodes about Project 2025. And as much as 45 wants to put out this image that he has no relation or association with that, it's just not believable to me. So essentially, for a little bit, the doors open for the Democratic Party to pick somebody in Biden's place. And a lot of people are looking at it being Harris and I still want to say Buttigieg, but Buttigieg on the ticket. That's the best bet at this point. At this point in life, the best qualified people are the people that are already internal. People that are trusted, people that have the qualifications, have the connections, and a good rapport with folks to the point that they have the confidence of everybody around them. And it's going to be Harris and Pete. And there's a lot that could be said about to the argument against that idea, right? Because for the most part, I was with y'all. Like, the first 2 or 3 years that Biden and Harris were in office, I was like, I'm like, where is Kamala Harris? And you don't see her at the conference thing. The only time you see her with Biden is when it's time to speak to the nation, when it's time to, bang the gavel and be down at the Senate. But other than that, you're like, where is she at? And then she started showing back up either earlier this year or late last year on the Jennifer Hudson show. And she had to ask her, she was like, where you live at? And I assume the VP lives in the White House. No, Kamala Harris is in California. Girl, official business is in DC on the monthly. What's going on? So it's like, you got that, image-wise, for the most part, people think that this is just a woman that just can't form a declarative sentence, laughs way too much, and is just always giggling nervously. That nervous giggle that she has. But, without context, I could see that. But let's not act like this isn't the same woman that was, cross-examining people when she was down there leading those committees, and really putting her law degree, her district attorney background to good use. Yeah, it's the same lady. And, of course, on the path to being the VP, there was a lot of argument there. Oh, this is the same lady that wants to show that she's progressive and she's hip and she's with it. But during her tenure as, what was she? Was she the district, not the district attorney, but she was the head of something over in California back in the day. And they say that during her tenure, it was the rates of black people going into jail was higher or some shit. They try to pull up old stuff, but of course it all fell flat. But it's like this may be a little bit of a weak ticket because we don't have any kind of shotgun moment from her since she's been VP that says, oh yeah, she's going to really eat them up. Kamala Harris could be like me where it's like, I don't do a whole lot of talking. I just do. And so much heat has been put on Biden the whole time. If not Biden, what's going on in the family, Hunter being on the stake and having the stones thrown at him figuratively. Nobody was really clocking Harris like that, right? And then Pete, it's like he tried to run for president when there was like 200 nominees, 200 people running for the job. And he had the goods at the time, right? Like, here's a gay guy in a strong marriage. They met on Christian Mingle. They're from the Midwest. He served the country. Like, he had all the things going for him. It would have been great. But do you honestly think, I'm talking like it's just you and me. Do you honestly think they will let a black woman be president and a gay man be vice president? Are we there yet? You saw how long it took to get a black president. A lot of us in 2008, 2009 didn't think we would ever see that in our lifetime at all. But I think at that point, people realized they were tired of beating around the bush, not getting any clear answers, clearly seeing somebody incompetent in office. We're talking about before Obama. So, but I don't know, man. It's like we are in a much lower place right now than we were 10, 15 years ago. Like, we're at a point right now where we're saying to ourselves, damn, both Bushes weren't that bad after all. We got to throw some reality into it. Be honest with me. Do you actually think they won't let a black woman be president and a gay man be vice president? As promising and enterprising as this ticket sounds, Harris and Pete, Buttigieg, they, as far as the other side, things are a little bit more nuanced. It's not as maggoty. They still have, they've switched the hats over a little bit. They're still red, but they say something else. But it's still a convicted felon still able to be in the race. And then on top of that, he did a pretty crafty move by selecting a millennial to be his running mate. A millennial hillbilly. Married to an Indian woman, I believe. literally has all the boxes checked. And then I start thinking about it, like people seeing that are like, oh, you know, 45 and his running mate can't be racist. We've got a person of color in the room. We've got a woman of Indian or Pakistani descent in the room. Can't be. Can't be. You gotta think about all the different things that they will try image wise to debunk any theories or perceptions of yesterday when it comes to 45. Can't possibly be against minorities. Can't possibly, be a suit. This is a survivor. Man, that attempt was something major. But Mr. Fox sees through all the smoke and mirrors and the bullshit. I saw the same clip that y'all saw. And like I said, sorry to that man. I lost his life. Two things can be true. A person can lose their life at a rally, and what's happening before us can be called into question. One doesn't necessarily negate the other. But see, the moment I posted the meme that y'all made, y'all were quick the day that the assassination attempt happened. Put that in air quotes. The image, the most famous image from that with, the red stuff coming down his ears and he's doing the fists and stuff. The caption read something about, I'll never go to Hot Topic to get my ears pierced or something like that. I posted that on IG and somebody in the comments was just so flabbergasted by it. A man lost his life, blah, 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 blah. And I said, people should be fighting their demons and not my comment section. And like I said, sorry to that man that lost his life. But even that became a thing. That became a caricature upon itself. Now everybody's walking around at his rallies with the square gauze on their ears. Like they're actually poking fun at it. But the rest of y'all are silent. Like, I think for us to this is going to be a reach for some folks because, people are comfortable. I think the turning point would be people have to realize what's going on in front of them and start to ask questions about what's going on behind the scenes. This circus is a distraction. A distraction from some even more damaging stuff possibly coming our way if we do not get our act together. Now, I don't theorize that. I mean, the door is open for a lot of possibilities, right? Like, one of the possibilities could be that Biden gets the second term, and we can breathe a little bit easier for a little while longer, right? But the larger possibility, the big elephant in the room, is that 45 gets back into the office. He already has the Supreme Court in his back pocket. They granted presidential immunity, essentially setting the stage for a lot of bullshit. And he could get it again, which will be wild because convicted felon, allegedly, which will be the worst thing because, you know, we ended up in a demi while he was president the first time. It is, it's going to be the most catastrophic reality, right? Or the other option could be Harris and Buttigieg gets into the White House. The idea is if y'all want to maintain some semblance of normalcy that isn't reminiscent of the way life was back in the 50s, the way life was back in the 1800s, where there is no authoritative policing type of power given to the military, where the lines are blurred between church and state, where the lines are blurred between government and military. You don't want the other option. It's just as simple as if 2 plus 2 is 4. If Johnny had 5 apples and I take away 4, how many apples does Johnny have? Part of me there's still a large part of me that's hopeful still. Joseph Biden choosing to throw in the towel. Throw in the towel! To not finish the race and possibly cede to a second term. I'm still hopeful that one of those 3 will be president. And that y'all will come to y'all's collective senses and do the right thing. I'm going to watch and see how this plays out, even though my intuition is telling me it's not going to look really good. I've never felt or said anything more urgent than what has been told to us every presidential race. Rock the vote. Because the options are few. And if you don't, that's essentially another vote for Chester the Cheetah and Hillbilly Elegy. Elegy. Before I get up out of here, I have a question to ask y'all. Y'all think Canada is up there with the thinking that they live above a meth house? Have you ever been to Canada? Are your passports current? You'll love Canada. I went to Montreal 6 years ago. So clean, so healthy. Sky's blue, grass is green. There's no trash, no litter. Everybody's happy and healthy. And people up there speak 2 or more languages. How do they do it? My passport's current. I don't know what y'all gonna do come November. But I just hope that you have a spend the night bag by the door, just in case. Because come November, it's Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Keep it locked and loaded on the I Refuse podcast, wherever you see us, wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, the YouTube channel, the Twitter page at I Refuse Podcast, all one word. Links are there, and on the Instagram at I Refuse Podcast _ between the words. Also, check out The Usual Suspects. We just dropped a new episode today, and the I Refuse Podcast After Dark, if you feel so inclined. It's still hot as a whore outside. Stay hydrated. Stay moisturized. Stay nourished. And as always, welcome to the shit show. Peace. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I